Hello, everyone. Your favorite comm major, Jim, is here. And I just wanted to talk to you about Anchor.fm. It is super easy to set up a podcast and get it out to all those amazing podcast platforms your friends use. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading you this ad. And I'm also a member. So honestly, it's super easy, even for the comm majors. You know, we did not do enough work in college, but it's super easy to upload your episode, get it out there to all those services. So if you want to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm/start, and you can, check it out right there. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Hello and welcome to Comm Majors. I'm Brian Costello.
I'm Jim DeSanto.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are looking at the Spike Lee Netflix original film, Da 5 Bloods. But first, as always, we ask the most pressing question of every episode. What are we drinking this episode?
I'm drinking Four Roses Small Batch Select, not to be confused with the regular small batch, in my Shoveltown brewery glass, which I won because Brian and Aileen and I just walked in there one night and just whooped up on everyone playing.
Yes, as Smokey and the Bandit. We played Quizzo 2 weeks ago. We went small crowd. We came in second. We lost by 1 point to a team that was cheating, by the way, because they have to do it via phone now. But you're only supposed to have one person on, and it's supposed to. But they were feverishly typing in 1 point.
People
losers.
Grab a shovel, build a brewery.
That's right. They got a new logo, by the way. A super cool new logo.
Yeah, like a poop shovel, like in Da 5 Bloods, like a little poop. Like
that's not called a poop shovel.
That's not.
I'm pretty sure it is. Dora has a song about it, about digging the hole.
I did. I did watch Dora the Explorer with Claire per your recommendation.
Yes.
And I wish that we had done that film instead of Da 5 Bloods.
Okay. Yeah. So,
it is so good. We should add it. Why don't we add that to the fan choice and have Claire on the show?
Yeah, we could have the kid. We could start doing like a kid version, like NBC News has Lester Holt and they do the kid version.
I think we should.
They would do that. But Jim, I'm glad you're not drinking crappy pre-made cocktails this week like last week.
Oh no. Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay. Katie did some very brief research about Vietnamese cocktails, and I didn't have any of the ingredients, but they said many of them are characterized by a lot of sugar and citrus. And so I'm having a delicious lemon-inspired sweet beverage.
All right.
It puts somebody into diabetic shock. It looks like just the look at the look of it.
That's powerful.
That is powerful. I love it. I am drinking Battery Steel Brewing Company's Flume Double IPA.
Oh, I like the black and white.
Which is a brewery out of Portland, Maine. And as we've talked about, when COVID is gone, we're going to do a special Comm Majors brewery tour of Portland, Maine.
God, yes.
And you too could come for a very small fee. We tried our original plan was to raise funds to go to the Caddyshack Fest, and then didn't work. So this is our next attempt.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Damn.
Okay. Fact from last week. Jimmy Costanzo inspired me to go to the movie theater.
Oh my gosh.
And I in fact went to a movie theater and saw Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
Wow.
And it was fantastic.
Of course.
I was apprehensive.
Yes.
Last week I joked saying text and write Aileen. She wasn't the one. I was apprehensive to go until I came to the realization that there will be more people in my small classroom than were in an IMAX theater that could sit 500 people.
True story.
When I was there. So Craig Goldberg and I went and saw the movie. There was only 10 people in the IMAX theater.
Did you sit 6 seats apart?
No, we did sit. I have to give a lot of credit if people want to go to theaters. When you buy tickets, once you buy a ticket, at least in Showcase, which is where I go, they're immediately blocking off the 2 seats on the sides of you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Also in Massachusetts, no food is allowed. I know in other states they're allowing concessions, so you must wear your mask the whole time, and there's no sale of food. Everything is wireless, and then after the show, they come around with those static sprayer things that they've been using. Also, I picked the first screening of the day, so it had been 12 hours
Clean
since
air.
anybody had been in the
Man, I was just listening to my little daily dose of news from NPR, and they were talking about how hard hit the entertainment industry is right now. It is bad stuff.
Well, Tenet made $20 million in the US, which would be horrific under normal standards, right? This is a film that would have been maybe $75 million, $100 million opening weekend. It did make almost $200 million in foreign markets, which are more open at this point.
It's going to change how films are judged with regards to money going forward. It's not opening weekend is not going to be a big thing, maybe ever again.
And are the movie theaters going to survive this? I mean, like financially, how can that sort of a viewing bring any kind of revenue?
But that's a good question, and it's already actually, not to go full geeky movie thing here. There was a law for a long time, which was an antitrust law. I believe it was called like the Paramount Law, which back when movies started, the studios owned the theaters. Yeah. So they could screen the films there, and the studios made money as a direct result of that. That was made illegal because they would only screen their studio's films. Now that law has been struck down. So Netflix has been buying theaters. I think Amazon's going to buy. So I think it's going to turn into that large independent chains like AMC and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, Showcase has basically told me if I go see 3 movies, they're going to give me a free movie. Yeah. So they're like, if you come to 2 more, you can come another time for free.
The folks that have worked in theaters in our lives have said that the cost that the movie theater has to pay to the studios for the movie itself, they almost make no money on the actual tickets, and that's why the concessions are so expensive.
Right. Yes.
But that's where they make their money. So now if they're
like
if they can't have concessions, are they actually making any money?
I don't know. I can't imagine they are. Like, again, when we showed up, 10 people. And this was, for arguably what was considered the biggest movie of the year.
Yeah.
Coming into 2020.
And what's funny is like, I know there's a lot of independent like music venues are crippled because they can't have anybody in, right? Like they're trying these shows where like they only allow, 5% of the audience in, and they're all distance, and they're not allowed to sing, and they're not allowed to do this and that. But I don't think that like the folks that go to live music shows are more likely to come back when things calm down, I think, than theater goers.
True.
I think you'll get fewer theaters at maybe higher prices.
Yeah.
But there'll be people like Tim from Pop Addled, myself, Jimmy Costanzo, who will go at, I would have paid, not like Broadway show rates to go see a movie, but if Tenet was $50 in the theater, I would pay $50 to see it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be, but would you pay $50 to see Lady Bird?
No,
so like,
and that's my
Women.
point. See, no, so that's my point. So I think that's why I think studios owning these things are going to influence that. They're changing it, so we'll see, but it was enjoyable.
I do like that the drive-in concerts are happening. Brett Buckridge just reminded us we are going to one. I'm so excited. So one of the local theaters, because they can't have anybody into the theater, Playhouse, they have started doing outdoor concerts, and you get a parking spot on the lawn, and then you get a fun spot next to your car. So you bring your chairs and you sit your little space up next to your car, and you're socially distanced from the next car. You pay for your carload of people. I'm so excited. You can pre-order your food and beverages. I can't wait.
Brett in the chat says that the Avett brothers are doing it. So I need to find out where that's happening. So we have done a run here of 80s movies. We're taking a little break from 80s movies. Of course, Back to the Future was our last one, but we've done Clue, Buckaroo Banzai. We've done so many, Caddyshack in the last few months. But the people love the 80s, as is evident at the fact that a show called Cobra Kai, which is a spin-off of Karate Kid from 1985, is the #1 trending show on Netflix. So just we're tapped into that. It's supposed to be a very good show. From what I've heard.
Yeah, the trailer looks amazing. It basically flips. It's a YouTube production, I think.
It was originally YouTube, one of those YouTube Premiere. I don't even know. Are they still even doing that? YouTube Red? Is that defunct now?
I don't know.
But that's there. So check that out. And then finally, remember, by the time you're listening to this for our usual pod listeners, we will be only days away from the Kyle Mills, Vince Flynn, Mitch Rapp book extravaganza, Friday, September 18th. Remember, register for free. All right. Pre-order your book. If you order your book, remember, you get not only an autograph, you get a
picture,
special edition Christmas card, free lifetime subscription to Comm Majors, and something else.
Right,
I'm sure there'll be something.
Underwear.
Yeah, I will not.
And a book. You get the book. You get to read the book.
Yeah, you get to read the book. And remember, if you are not well versed, like Katie, who last week didn't know who the author, the character, the creator of the series, you can listen to the No Limits, a Mitch Rapp podcast, which Thriller fans are loving. They've been on for, I think they're 20-something episodes. They gave us a very nice shout out in their most recent episode. So they also told a fantastic story, which immediately endeared them to me, about them going and eating like 200 wings in college, which I felt like we would have been down for.
Yeah, there are kind of people.
Yeah, there are kind of people. So I've also been using them as research, as they have did a fantastic interview with Kyle Mills several weeks ago.
Oh, very good.
All right. So that is fact check time for the rundown.
Jim's cheating and trying to read the rundown ahead of time. It's rude. You have to react in real time to my mistakes.
Well, since you write it in real time, that's
can't
usually
know
not too
about them
difficult.
ahead of time. I wrote this earlier tonight, Brian. All right, it's even typed. What? 4 Vietnam vets set a path to return to the land that united them as brothers and unearth 2 things. Number 1, their 5th brother, or blood, Stormin' Norman, whose body was left behind after being killed in action. And number 2, the massive treasure of gold bars that the men discovered during their time as soldiers. They know that to accomplish this task, they will need a metal detector, government paperwork, connections to illegal exporters, and an adept guide. They don't know that they will also need a pack mule, a mine detector, massive firepower, and trust in each other in order to get out of Vietnam alive.
All right. All right. That was better written than this film.
Yep.
Yeah.
This film, I got to say it right now.
Such a letdown.
113 episodes. I have never been more disappointed.
Yes, it's a good word. That's a good word.
That we have done, because right off the bat, I can't say this. I
I'm disappointed.
I can't say that it's the worst film we've ever done, because we've done watched From Justin to Kelly. We've done like this is easily the most disappointed it literally might be the most disappointed I've been in a movie just in general in a decade.
I think Jim explained it very well. Would you like to say your assessment?
I said it is like it's really disappointing, because there are some really good ideas, and there could be a good story here.
There is.
Like there's a good story. There's a bones of like something that could really work here,
Yep.
And some of it's lazy. Like, even in Katie's rundown, like, the fact that they named one of the characters Storm and Norman, for anybody who's over the age of 40, that is the name. That's the military name of a real guy. Like, from the Gulf War. Like, it just, there are so many confused moments in this movie like that, where they literally take the line from Blazing Saddles that is taken from, was it the Wild Bunch? We don't need no stinking badges.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know or is that from, I forget what movie that's from.
They took Bunk's reaction from The Wire
Sierra
and
Madre,
put it into this movie.
Yeah, no, not Bunk, please.
I'm sorry, not Bunk.
Clay Davis.
Sorry, Clay Davis. Thank you.
The actor, they use that?
The actor that plays Clay Davis in The Wire had this thing where he would go, shit, all the time. And it was like iconic for that character in that show. They literally have him like, first off, if I'm him, I absolutely refuse.
Well,
but again,
I can't believe he did it.
Then I remembered that this is Spike Lee.
Right.
So like,
if Spike Lee tells you to do something.
There are so many moments in this movie where I got pissed off about stupid stuff like that. It is a shame.
Does Spike Lee write most of his scripts?
He's credited. He basically is allowed to do whatever he wants.
No, I know, but like, does he write most of his scripts?
He works on. I think like any of these big directors, right? They get writing credits. How much of it do they write is, I think, up for debate.
I don't know. I mean, I was reading some articles that were giving him a lot of credit for the writing of this movie, and I was wondering if that was part of the problem.
This is what happens when you take and team up the writers of Black Klansman with the writers of, you want to guess? The writers of a Comm Majors movie that we have done. I'll give you each one quick guess. If I had to tell you, pick any Comm Majors movie we've done, it's the writing team for that teaming up with the Black Klansman. Take a guess. Who would you hire for this?
All right. So John Wick.
No, would have made more sense though, right?
Yeah,
right?
Maybe we would have gotten some good action sequences.
Not John Wick. Jim, guess one. Jim.
Oh Christ! Is it one of the Marvel movies?
No, it was the writing team behind The Rocketeer.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
What else have they done?
Actually,
which when you think now it starts to make sense.
It sure does.
Who sits in a room and says, "Let's get the guys who gave us the early '90s weird pop comic-y Rocketeer, team it up with the writers of Black Klansman." And make a movie. And that is this film in a nutshell.
Yeah.
What is this movie?
It's
this
such
movie
a shame.
I watched 20 minutes of this movie and it was like the 20 minutes I remember sitting in the theater and watching Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Yes.
I'm like, is this a joke?
Did he just get in the fridge?
Yeah. Like, is this like this acting and writing this bad? Like this has to be like a dream sequence or something's got to be going on here because the people involved in this are way too talented to let something like this happen.
And so like we should say that this movie sort of takes place in technically two timelines. One is present day where these guys are going back to Vietnam. And the other is seemingly flashbacks to actual being in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. That piece does play like a dream and a recollection rather than reality.
Agreed.
And I think that's purposeful. And I think some of the cinematography and the stuff they do with the camera in that is pretty cool.
So they blur the lines there, right? Because you have a character who's also taking video and photograph, right? And when he takes images, it uses the same filter, which gets a little bit confusing.
It's so confusing because he seems to be carrying what would appear to be like a 16 millimeter,
a super old video camera.
No, it would look like Super 8 film or something.
Yeah.
It does not look like video at all.
Right.
Which is really strange because he would never be doing that in present day.
Right. But then you have our same actors in the scenes that would seem to be flashbacks, which again, so no aging. At the end, we see them CG unaged, euthanized. No,
really bad de-aging, by the way.
But so one of my questions was like, okay, so there's a choice here to not use younger actors to represent them, right? Mm-hmm. To keep it just them. To not CG the old, footage, and to just have it be them set back into these scenes, which I guess is to make us think it's their recollection, right? Where they're putting their current selves,
right? But they're also it is also very. Like Brian, we were talking about like watching those scenes, like, and my problem with this movie doesn't revolve around those kinds of choices, because
those are stylistic choices, which sure. They can go with. Yeah. So go with it, because that part didn't bother me either. That stylistic choice.
And so like they pull that off pretty well, because when you're back in the Vietnam War, the way things sort of play out and the way things happen do seem like someone telling a story. They very much look like some of those old, like
it's hyper realistic, right?
It's hyper realistic, and it's also there's like there's no details, so it doesn't look real.
Well, and from just quickly from a historic perspective, there's not a group of 5 guys walking around the jungle in Vietnam by themselves.
Yep. Right.
Like that's not. So I agree.
They were on some kind of mission, right? With the helicopter. But that starts to get into my problem with the film, is that there are certain things in this movie that are complete happenstance.
Oh my God.
Wait.
No, I know, you just reminded me of one.
That make no goddamn sense.
Yep.
And they don't do anything to set them up.
Yep.
And then there are other things that they do set up that are complete happenstance that are not important to the story at all.
No.
And so like, why do you write some of this in, and why do you leave some of it out? And like, it seems like it seems like 5 different people wrote the script at the same time.
Yep.
And they just kind of smashed it together. They didn't like...
And then they never finished editing it. Like it felt like a movie that hadn't been finished.
Yeah, it's really weird. There's a group of... Well, there's a French woman and an American guy and they're... I don't know. What was he? Eastern European?
Like fake Josh Gad. You got a French woman.
No, that's not fake Josh Gad, dude. That's what's his name, and he's incredible in BlacKkKlansman, and he's in a bunch of stuff.
But I know, but in this, it's just like
he doesn't need to be. That whole group of people does not need to be in this movie.
This is literally, to me, the equivalent if I was like talking about like a film school and somebody was like, your Jim take on it is absolutely 5 people. All right. Tommy, what do you want to do? I want to do a homage to Apocalypse Now. Mm-hmm. Okay, you go write that part.
Make
Jake,
sure
what
you
do you
name
want
the
to
bar
do?
that.
Well, I want to do something like Spike Lee did in BlacKkKlansman, or Do the Right Thing, with the guy talking to the camera, and it's going to be about social issues. Okay, Rick, what do you want to do? I want to make a movie about a heist. All right, these guys found gold, and it's great. And okay, you go write that. Sally, what do you want to do? I want to write this like dark piece about PTSD and the effect that war had on people and the relationships with their children and all these. Okay, you do it. All right, we're all in the group, so we have to write this screenplay, and the movie's got to be done at the end of the semester. Go.
Yeah. You're right.
It's like, what the hell? Like, maybe any of those 4 ideas actually done by Spike Lee would have been really good. Yeah. But when you put the 4 of them together, it's just pure insanity. So nothing in service.
It's that problem that we've talked about of trying to do too much. And when we compare it to BlacKkKlansman and Do the Right Thing, you know, at their base, those are pretty simple, like, plot lines, right? And because it's a simple plot structure, you're able to do a lot more with it.
But the plot here is not super complex.
But they make it
yes,
such.
Yes.
It shouldn't be as complex as it is.
And so like that's the problem is like if you literally took the story from this and put it in like outline form, there's a really good story. And you can make it the problem for me is like it doesn't emotionally connect at all. Except maybe Delroy Lindo in like that third act where he really takes control of the movie. And it's literally the only part of the movie, I think, that rises above like and becomes something that is like worth watching.
Well, I think that there's a problem with the characters. And I was trying to think about, there's something that always feels like stiff and inauthentic about them. And I was wondering whether it was purposeful, thinking about what happens in times of war, especially in a draft where you have, people who never volunteered for service mixed together with folks that did volunteer for service. And there's a necessary bond, right? Like you have to find a way to connect with these people in order to survive, no matter where you're from, what your political beliefs are, what your ethical, for survival, you have to connect with this group of people. And there's really no other structure where that's the case. And so I was wondering if there was something there with how even just the way that these guys overused bloods, like calling each other the bloods, it felt so clumsy. Like some of them when they would say it, I was like, it doesn't sound like the way they would speak.
They didn't sound like they were used to saying it.
No, this sounds forced. This sounds like something that somebody told them to say.
And that's okay, because I do think there's part of that is sort of like and maybe it's just because the story didn't give us how much time they had spent together after the war between now and then. But like there's like that idea of like a reunion where you can revert, sort of like the group Point Blank moment where like when you're back in the room with those people, you're now not yourself anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
but he doesn't do that. Like it doesn't come through.
Agreed. Again, these are all the thoughts I was having to try to explain the disconnect I was having with the characters of trying to think through what was purposeful and what wasn't. But the fact is, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you don't connect with the characters, then it doesn't really matter whether it was purposeful or not.
There's not a character in this entire movie I care about. I'm just being honest. None of the Delroy Lindo stuff, by the point where it was pretty good at the end, I just didn't care about his character.
Yeah.
And it felt like a second-rate version of something that Spike Lee would do. It felt like somebody trying to do Spike Lee at that point, as opposed to Spike Lee doing Spike Lee. And it was just intermixed with such weird choices, like of all these like storylines over there. Let's see if this one sticks. Let's see if this one sticks. And why should I care for these people? Because there's nothing. Are they there to find the body, or are they there for the gold?
Well, that's a great question, because they didn't know when they dug up the gold. So you go again. I would love to get my hands on like the final script to see like what that looked like, because they get to Vietnam and Paul's son shows up and they have somewhat of a little argument about like, if he's coming and he's going to do some work, does he get a full share? Yeah. Does he get a share? Blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like they've talked about this and they've planned it out. Then they find the gold.
How do they find it?
Metal detector.
No,
he's taking a dump.
Oh yeah, right. He digs
Guy's taking a dump.
I mean,
and
with
he's
all
trying
of
to
the
shovel up his
planning,
poop.
Yeah.
Literally, the son sticks one shovel into the ground. No metal detector. No map involved. Puts his shovel in the ground to take a poop, and is like, "Oh, there's a gold bar right here." 40 years later, just sitting right at the top of the dirt.
But it was the problem for me is that whole point. I think the gold heist part of it bothered me because it's so poorly done. It is the equivalent, the heist like element of, Jean Reno's this French guy he's going to sell him out. Like, honestly, this is like a goddamn awful HBO made movie from the 90s that was on at 2:00 in the morning. Yeah. That part of this film is literally that bad. Yeah. It is. I don't get even the need for it.
No, I agree.
Choices at the time. This is a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah,
I was like clawing my eyes out.
Yes. I think that the part of the story
I will
that
finish this. I will finish what I was talking about.
Finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the idea that they have planned out what they're doing with the gold. The moment they dig up the gold, they start having a conversation about what Norman wanted them to do with the gold, as if that was decided prior to them getting there. And now everyone's like, no, I'm taking my share and I'm going to do my thing. Like, what is happening? Like, what did they talk about prior? Why would they divvy it up into shares if they were going to do the Norman
thing? Give it to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think there's no reason for the gold to be involved. I think this movie would have been so much better if it was them deciding to go back to Vietnam and get their friend and bring him home to his family and just go with the authentic experience.
If you do that and you have the PTSD thing with Paul and bring his son along, there's an awesome movie there. This is
an important movie. It is a heartfelt movie. Like, you tell that story, the piece of the inspiration of this movie, which is that, the stories of Vietnam are largely whitewashed. 32% of the soldiers were black. In depictions of the film, the media of Vietnam, you rarely see a black soldier. There is a story to be told here of the misrepresentation, the underrepresentation of soldiers of color who, again, were asked to fight for a country that was not standing up for them in any kind of a way. There's a story here. The gold becomes so distracting and clunky to our characters and to our audience that it ruins this movie.
But here's the thing. Like, Spike Lee does that a lot, right? And that's okay. Like, I do appreciate that he feels responsible for telling certain stories that he believes are underrepresented. In things like BlacKkKlansman and even in Do the Right Thing, the characters are sort of unaware of that story. Mm-hmm. In this,
oh my God,
they are just spouting out random facts that, and at some points it's like, that's the only reason the son is there, to like receive these nuggets of wisdom from the other characters. And it's like, he could have just done the Spike Lee thing of cutting in and doing his thing and telling that story alongside of what's happening with the characters to give it like some context without the characters saying the fucking words.
Yeah, I thought it was so clunky how he did it in this movie.
It all felt clunky. Like
crazy. But with those drop-ins, like if you look at Do the Right Thing and you look at BlacKkKlansman where he did it a little bit, he was so, I don't want to say subtle, but it was so smooth. It worked in the story. This was like something where you're having a freshman in high school write a story and like Katie's grading it, and the things they're alluding to are so over, like you can be more subtle than that. You can have a character like give us information in a way that makes more sense than this. It's right. They're like, I'm going to read this thing now. There was a point where like I literally felt a fifth grader wrote this line when their guide, who somehow is also trained in using firearms and all this stuff, he goes, oh, this is like your Uncle George, right? Oh, George Washington isn't my uncle. He owned 132 slaves.
Yeah. Like, how do you say touche? Yeah.
Like, I'm like, come on, man. You're better than that.
No,
make
agreed.
a movie, make a Vietnam movie about African Americans.
Yes.
And you can even have flash forwards and flashbacks and do those types of things. Don't give me a heist movie in the middle of it, which is like a grade Z heist movie that nobody cares about.
Yeah, like I pictured this, like the gold part is being secondary to getting their buddy's bot that remains, right? I thought that had a very like Stephen King, like Stand By Me kind of feel to it.
I thought of Stand By Me as well a little bit with it.
The great part of Stand By Me is that you have these four characters traveling together with like this ominous thing coming up, right? Like, they're going to, these kids are just like heard that there's a body washed ashore and they want to go look, or they heard that he got hit by a train and they want to go look at it.
No.
And they're traveling for like a full day and night, on their own. And that like ominous moment of something that is going to like affect each one of them differently is going to happen. It's going to come at some point during this film or in this story. And you could have had the same thing here, but everything just like, it's like we get to that like less than halfway through the movie, and then you get this like defend the ancient temple moment, and it's just God. Like every moment he could have like emotionally connected to the audience, they put something in the way.
Well, again, in terms of what we would imagine had happened prior to this event, which is 40 years in the making, right? Where they've been waiting all that time to come back. It seemed
50
like
years.
50 years. Well, they were like, no problem. We're going to be able to navigate the jungle. Like, we know that so well.
By the way,
right? No map.
They didn't go back the same way. That's
fine. Just let us off here. No. We've got this.
No offense. And these guys are the same age as my dad, who was in Vietnam.
Right.
My father, a Vietnam vet, is not at his age. And he's actually younger than these guys were supposed to be there, because these guys were supposed to be there in the late. There is no way my father, at 70 years old, is going through the Vietnamese jungle looking for hidden gold. No. It is 100% not happening. It was not necessary for this movie. I don't know. This movie drove me off a freaking wall. When they, 90 minutes into the movie, find the body of Chadwick Boseman, who I love, who is criminally underused in this movie. And then it's just like, oh, we love you, blood. We love you, blood. What? This is supposed to be like the emotional piece of it. And the payoff is supposed to be that Delroy Lindo's character shot him by accident when they were trying to. I didn't care. Yeah. I wanted every one of them to die. I was like, I don't care if they die. They're dying. I don't care. I don't care about the sun. I don't know why the sun's here. The only people I wanted out there were the poor people that were trying to get mines out of the way. So that's where I was going to say. What didn't make any sense to me was the over preparation contrasted with the lack of preparation. The understanding contrasted with the lack of understanding. And so here we have an underrepresented group, an oppressed group, who goes into a country that was literally torn apart by a war that was very much orchestrated by the United States. And they think that they can just like walk about town, gallivanting, having fun in the bars. Like, there's not going to be a single problem with anybody who lives there. Like, surprise, surprise, these people have some feelings about American soldiers.
That actually rings pretty true.
You think so? That they would have
Americans showing up in Vietnam and maybe not acting appropriately?
At the time, do you think that now looking back, so yes, as 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, absolutely. But do you think as grandfathers,
Well,
they
we already
would
know
go
that
back.
Paul was a Trump supporter, so.
I felt
I mean,
like
that part, like, come on, that's another example.
even
Just like
that with him on the boat and the guy with the chicken. So his son has shown up and said, he has.
I actually thought that reaction was pretty well done.
The reaction was fine. They belabored it. Because
that scene ran 35 to 40 seconds.
These guys
way too long.
They know he's going to snap on somebody.
Yeah.
They know that. His son showed up partially because of that.
Yeah.
And they're just letting him have his...
Yeah, but can we talk about the son? Because I have that character I might have a bigger issue with than any character in the film. Because as we see him, he's set up as like this, I'm going to be this vindictive guy.
Yes.
Like, you're giving me my share. I'm here to ruin. But then literally the next scene he's in, he's like, oh, he's the good guy. I'm just there to win my dad's love.
I teach underprivileged children. And really, I'm just looking for true love.
Where is this coming from?
No, you're right.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Well, the characters are not consistent either. So, like, where are you going?
I need something.
She's leaving. I was going to walk out of this episode if either of you liked this movie.
The other issue that I have, and I'm hoping Katie's listening, is that there's like this undercurrent that we're supposed to feel like they shouldn't quite trust each other about the gold, and there's no indication at all why they wouldn't. And so then they start acting like they don't trust each other, but there's no reason, and then they just get over it. Like there's so many little moments in this film that were like, oh, if we do this now, then the audience is going to feel this about them, and then we can kind of like that's how people are supposed to feel in a heist movie. You're supposed to, the characters are supposed to maybe not trust each other at some point during the heist movie. So that's what we're going to do now.
But I don't understand. The thing I didn't understand is this, and this is not being ageist, just knowing people our parents' age, who these guys are they that overly, oh, we're going to become so rich? I don't know many people that age who are like, I need to get all this gold so I can do all this. I felt like this was a movie. If these guys were like 40 years old, if you set this movie in like the 90s and they were like 20 years removed from it, like maybe then it makes sense. Like none of the timing of this stuff makes sense.
Agreed.
I thought the representation of the Vietnamese in this movie was not great.
No.
If I'm going to be fair, which is really, really interesting.
Yep.
If you want to talk about making a film about African Americans being exploited or undercared, his handling of the Vietnamese, in my opinion, was not very good. Was not. I don't think the characterizations of some of them were there. But I'm at a loss of what the thought process is here, because I feel like this was probably important to him to tell the story, like we saw in BlacKkKlansman, of a police officer caught in the midst of the civil rights movement and all these, to tell that story with the Klan and the idea of duty that John David Washington played in that character. And I look at that character in BlacKkKlansman, or I look at Mookie in Do the Right Thing, and I ask myself, where is that character in this film?
No, there's not there.
And it's not. And that's the most disappointing thing, because when I see the cast, when I saw the trailer.
Well, he died, right? Like, so he's Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah,
should have
but
been that.
And
that is the moral compass of this movie.
Yeah.
But you don't see it enough.
Well, again,
his scenes don't do it. Sorry.
Well, and again, it's not him, right? It's their retelling of what he did.
Of who he is.
Gets
right.
made
Exactly.
into like a demigod.
Right.
Not a human.
Right.
But
And that could have been
what? Why?
That could have been.
What do we see that makes us believe that he is a demigod?
That could have been such a good part of this movie as well. Like the theme of like putting someone on a pedestal that, for whatever reason, they live their lives after the fact according to his moral compass, right? Or they tried to. They thought they should, whether they did or not. But them dealing with that could have been a whole part of this story.
You're right. Yeah.
Now, I do wonder, Chadwick Boseman, who I love, as we, talked to, passed away. This is one of his last films.
Yeah.
And you can tell physically. And actually, Clark Peters from The Wire.
Yeah. I saw this.
He said a whole thing about this. He goes, I feel terrible. I was so excited to meet Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther. He was on the set. And he said, I called home to my wife and was like, this guy's a prima donna. He's getting massaged in between scenes. It's because he was stage 4 cancer. Yeah. But Chadwick Boseman didn't tell anybody this.
Right.
Which is, amazing itself. I wonder if there was supposed to be more there. I mean, he looks gaunt. But he is supposed to be the moral character here. And I don't fault him. I actually think he's the only part of this movie that interested me. In the few small sequences that he had, but it felt forced,
unused, misused.
Well, he did, but I enjoyed seeing him. I thought his performance was fine, but he wasn't used much. I just go back to, again, overall, the thing I'll take away with this is I just feel disappointed. Yep. I feel like there was an opportunity with Spike Lee, especially, by the way, coming off of BlacKkKlansman, which was his most successful movie in quite a long time, to even
by the way, this has been gigantically successful
on Netflix.
According to Netflix metrics. It is one of the top 5 things over the past.
What are the ratings looking
60
like
days.
on it?
It's great.
People are enjoying it. It's just us again.
Maybe, I don't know. I really am hard pressed.
I was reading Roger Ebert's review, and it was pretty good.
82%.
Roger Ebert is dead.
Oh, who's the other one?
So it's his website. It might be his website, though.
82% on Metascore.
I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing. Maybe we're missing something.
The user score is 5.7.
Yeah, that's basically like the audience score.
Right, out of 10. Right?
Versus
that's a bad use. Yeah.
So
I don't understand
here's
this.
My hot take. People have a hard time criticizing movies made by folks like Spike Lee that are telling important stories. This is an important story. It's not told well. It's being done by an excellent film creator.
Yeah, again.
This is not done well.
Rotten Tomatoes, 92% fresh critic score, 54 audience score.
I disagree with the critics. I agree. Audience, yes. We hear you.
I can't. I mean, this is literally, we've watched some shit movies. I almost got to the point when there was 45 minutes left in this movie.
Yeah.
I was going to phone it in and say, I'm just going to find a spoiler, which explains the plot, because I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe that's again because I was very excited when we picked to watch this. I loved BlacKkKlansman, all this stuff. I thought the cast of actors individually are all great.
Yep.
I don't know where it went wrong.
The idea of going to get the remains is like in Vietnam is a unique story that needed to be told.
And it's so it could have been so powerful.
The gold piece, I mean, David O. Russell did that with Three Kings. Like it's
cheap. It was cheap. It's cheap.
It's so
story.
It's so confused. It's just really confused.
Relevant, tell the meaningful story every time over the cheap one.
Yeah.
All right. It's available on Netflix.
Don't watch it.
I don't think you can watch it.
Watch anything else that Spike Lee has made. Watch any of the other of these actors' films.
If you want to watch a heist movie that Spike Lee did, watch Inside Man. It is amazing.
If you want to watch something on Vietnam that does have representation, that does tell, watch Ken Burns' Vietnam miniseries.
Yeah.
And see that. All right. It's time for Game of the Week.
Okay. I added tea cooler.
Oh.
It was too much.
Katie made a putrid drink.
Well, too much. Never too much tea cooler.
It was too much citrus.
You should have taken some of that tea cooler.
Yeah.
Poured in some of that bottle of peach schnapps I left there.
I didn't follow through on the peach schnapps promise.
Go through. Okay, Game of the Week.
I lack follow through.
We are hopping into bonus sound effect here. The Comm Majors Time Machine.
Oh,
there it is.
Look at you in learned those skills.
We're going back in time. All right, so this movie was a little heavy, so I wanted to go a little bit more.
I hate your choices here.
Fun here. I did not pick the top 10s of any of these. I went for some interesting choices from the year 1968. We picked 1968 because that was the year that the Five Bloods are located and stationed and fighting in Vietnam. Here we go. Movies from 1968. I should say this. The top grossing film of 1968 was Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand, which I don't think anybody was seeing. The number 2 grossing film was 2001 Space Odyssey, which we saw. So I wanted to pick 3 movies that we probably all have seen or at least heard of. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, would you be going to see The Graduate? Would you be going to see Herbie the Love Bug, which is a little plug to our friends at Pop Addled who talked about this in one of their episodes. And Jim and I were irate because they did not get the car right. Jim was correct.
I would love to see the fact check on that, Keenan and Tim. Get Castle back on, and I want to see
Jim was right
where that car is. What Herbie was. He's always been a VW bug.
The Love Bug.
What did they say it was?
Bug.
Their guest, I forget what he said it was.
It was not a bug.
Yeah.
It's in the title of the movie. Or would you watch the original Planet of the Apes movie? Which movie are you going to see?
I'm going to see The Love Bug. I loved that movie when I was little.
This is really tough. I think probably The Graduate because it's, it's The Graduate. It's Dustin Hoffman and peak.
It's amazing film. I want to say 30-year-old Brian Costello would see The Graduate. 20-year-old Brian Costello would see Planet of the Apes. But 10-year-old Brian Costello, who wins the day, would go see Herbie the Love Bug, which I love. All of the Love Bug films are now available.
I have a problem with
on Disney Plus.
I have like a Charlton Heston problem.
Yeah, I do. I will without spoiling it because there might actually be some people who have never seen the original Planet of the Apes. The ending of the original Planet of the Apes is kind of an iconic film ending. But Herbie the Love Bug, the Costello kids are ready. We're going to watch the whole series.
Oh, nice.
Love Bug, Herbie Goes Bananas, Herbie and Monte Carlo. We will be skipping the Lindsay Lohan
I was
version.
wondering.
We will not be watching it. All right, TV. All right, which of the following TV shows in 1968 are you watching? Are you watching The Andy Griffith Show? Are you watching The Carol Burnett Show? Or are you watching Mission Impossible?
Katie's going first.
Show?
I'm watching Carol Burnett every time. So stinking funny. Still today. So funny.
Agreed, Carol Burnett. I kind of hate I don't hate, but I do not love Andy Griffith or the old Mission Impossibles.
Oh, have you watched the old Mission Impossibles?
When I was younger, I saw them, on whatever.
Yes.
Repeat.
Well, of course, I would pick the old Mission Impossible. But if I had to pick another choice, I would pick the Carol Burnett Show as well. Though I will say this. We are of an age where I do remember in New York, Channel 11 playing all of these shows in reruns at the time.
Oh, I legit watched Carol Burnett when I was little.
Carol Burnett's, she was just flat out brilliant.
Yep.
All right, finally, this is a good one, I think. These are 3 high-end songs from 1960, and there were tons of songs from 1968. Would you be listening to Hey Jude by the Beatles, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, or Mrs. Robinson by Simon and
I'll go
Garfunkel?
first. Go. I cheated because my song is in my movie, so I get to pick another one. So if you didn't know, Mrs. Robinson is the song from The Graduate.
Everybody knows.
Yes, very
Not
good.
everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that.
I'm going Hey Jude. I have to go with Hey Jude, even though Sitting on the Dock of the Bay is an incredible song.
These are all great songs. My choice is Mrs. Robinson. It's so catchy. It's such a catchy song.
It's very catchy. And I'm going to go, if I have to pick, I'm going to pick my favorite song of all time, which I think is the best song, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
I did not know that was your favorite
I didn't know
song.
that was your favorite song.
Yeah, I think that is the best song.
It's a very good song.
Ever. All right, we're back in the time machine, back to modern times. Unfortunately, Huey Lewis was not around in 1968.
No,
but nonetheless. All right, it's time for 5 questions.
You want answers? I want the truth. What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski?
What the fuck is the internet? Would you? Why?
All right, here we go. 5 questions this week. Katie is answering. All right, question number 1. Katie, are you thumbs up or thumbs down on Vietnamese food? You had in a Vietnamese-inspired cocktail.
I'm thumbs up on it. You know, there's all kinds of things that I can eat from Vietnamese cuisine. I was thinking the only, like, country's cuisine that I would say I'm kind of thumbs down on is, like, German food. Just not for me.
Really?
It's a lot of meats and breads. Can't do that.
Cheeses
Vietnamese
as well.
I got lots of options with Vietnamese. So yeah, we're all good with Vietnamese.
Yeah, the
food.
fish. That is probably
Yeah, people love Vietnamese food.
Yeah.
Most
There's a great
people,
Vietnamese restaurant in Philly called Vietnam. They make delicious food. I enjoy it.
I love it. Okay, here, question number 2. We have some amazing actors who were not showcased properly in this film.
No, they were not.
From the HBO show The Wire. But my question for you, Katie, is this, and this is a tough, difficult question for you or I. Would you rather watch The Wire or Homicide: Life on the Street?
Okay. I refuse to choose one of these as being better. But like right now, like if I was going to restart a series right now, I have watched Homicide twice, the whole series. The Wire I've only watched once. So I feel like The Wire is due a rewatch.
That's true.
So good.
They are, in my mind, and I have an emotional attachment to Homicide. They are equally excellent.
It's not true. That is a great conversation, because I think the Homicide suffers a little bit of the Lost scenario here, where the whole like idea of Andre Braugher never finishes like in a satisfying way. Like the whole thing with him and Bayless and the Arbor and like who killed that girl. And I guess that's part of the deal with Homicides, right? Like and that was probably a choice, but again,
it feels unsettled.
But The Wire does the same thing in certain ways where you're not supposed to feel settled. But they do such a great job of examining the systems around why things are unsettled that you sort of go, yep, that's the only way it could end.
I've almost thought of them always as the same show, because Homicide was not allowed to be The Wire by NBC. So the reason he went and did The Wire is because he had stories he wanted to tell from Homicide. Aileen and I will be starting a Homicide rewatch later this month. We're doing the whole, I have this amazing box set
Has
that
she
you see
watched
behind.
it before, Brian?
She has not.
Brian, I'm a little bit scared.
You should pair it, Brian.
Does she like these kinds of shows?
Yes.
Okay.
She likes true crime.
You should when Homicide gets too heavy, you should do like an hour of Homicide and then do an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine to like
with Andre Braugher,
because he is
I love him
fucking amazing in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
People forget how good he was. All right, here we go. Question 3, fill in the blank question. Katie, the group of friends referred to themselves as the Five Bloods in this film. What would you refer to your group of friends as?
So we've always referred to each other as the girls. Which annoys other
like
people that we just like take a whole gender. So, like, but when I'm telling Jim,
no, everybody does that. You're going out with the girls.
The girls. Yeah, that's it, right? So I guess if we had to be more specific, we'd be the DE girls, but we're just the girls. That's where we lived in college.
Through the years, you had to like cut back on that because originally DE was Dennis Edwards, a dorm, and you all were that.
Yep.
Then not everybody was that.
Yep.
And then you got to the point where nobody would have a clue what that even meant.
Yeah.
So why have that anymore?
The girls. That's it. That's who we are.
That's why me and Brian just choose to have each other and no other friends.
Yes. That's why nobody else likes
we just
us.
say I'm going with Brian.
Yeah. really it makes it streamlines. You should think about that. It streamlines everything for you.
We simplify our lives in every possible way.
So much easier that way. Okay, favorite question. Katie, what's the favorite country you've visited?
Italy. Yeah. Italy.
It feels like the chalk answer, but it feels like trite to say, but
no. I haven't. I'll be honest. I haven't been to that many countries. 4 or 5. So of the ones I can choose from, it's Italy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Finally, our deep thoughts question, Katie. If you had to pick 4 people to go on a treasure hunt with, who would they be?
I know I probably should have thought this through and picked like famous people, but I would rather do it with my friends. So it's the 2 of you and then our good friends, Aaron and Patrick. And I think we might not find the treasure, but we would have a heck of a lot of fun.
I'll tell you
Actually, we would find the
only
treasure.
2 of us are walking out of that forest, and most likely it's me with your body.
Wait, in this metaphor, are you Otis?
I'm Paul, but I win. I'm Paul, but I win the day.
But you got bit by the snake, so I'm pretty sure you're done.
To be clear, I never would have gone into the jungle.
What the fuck was that? By the way, getting bit by the snake?
There's no point to it, right?
Did that contribute to him dying?
No,
maybe. I don't. Hallucinating? No. Was that the hallucination piece? I don't know.
Lord.
Who knows? All right, so that is 5 questions. All right, so next week we have a film. I know, I'm excited. I was picked as well. Next week we have a film that was huge when we were probably teenagers, right?
Is that true?
Harrison Ford.
Is it from that time? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was much older.
No. Early 90s. Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones. We're going to be discussing The Fugitive.
Richard.
Which is
don't make me
amazing.
Shoot you.
Available on HBO Max. If you have HBO Max, go ahead, Jim.
I accidentally closed it. I was going to say, in lieu of watching The Five Bloods, don't watch that. Go right now and watch the trailer for Dune that came out yesterday.
So wild.
Amazingly good.
Stop.
What?
You watched the trailer? Did you watch it?
I made her watch it. Yeah.
I'm not being sarcastic.
Okay.
Number 1, I love Timothée Chalamet, first of all. Number 2, the visuals in that trailer are bananas.
That's true.
Number 3, as all good sci-fi films should do, I felt uncomfortable through the whole thing. The nose thing that's going on there, the pain in the box, like uncomfortable. Everything was uncomfortable.
Pain is fear is the mind.
It's probably going to be an amazing movie. Yeah.
Do you know who plays the worm?
No.
What? Andy Serkis.
Florence Pugh.
What? We love Florence.
I completely made that up.
Oh,
Katie.
Brian.
Like, did you think the worm was her in a mocap suit? She's just like...
I was like, I don't even know what the worm is. I thought it was a person.
Oh, God. Okay, like, share, subscribe, review. Make sure this is a film that people love. You watch The Fugitive before you join us next week.
All right.
Don't make me shoot you.
Bye.
Bye.